So today's lesson is on probability and the likelihood of something happening. So the first thing I want you to go ahead and write down is our definition of probability here, and it is the measure of how likely an event is to occur. Okay. We're going to go ahead and fill out this table and this chart right here, so you're going to want to copy this down as well as I go ahead and do it. We do have a number line. The first thing we're going to go ahead and put on our number line is our fractions. We're going to go from 0 to 1. Notice how half is already filled in for you, so we're going to go ahead and put this as a 1/4, because 1/4 is half of a half. And then over here we have a 3/4, or 3/4. Now if I go ahead and turn my fractions into a percentage, 0 is equal to a 0%. 1/4 is equal to 25%. 1/2 is equal to 50%. 3/4 is equal to 75%. And 1 is equal to 100%. Now when we talk about probability, the reason we're talking about 0 through 1 is that you can only go from 0 to 1, or 0 to 100%. There is no going over 100%. Something cannot happen 110% of the time. It can only happen 100% of the time, which will be always. Okay? So we have some terms that are going to go along with it. So our 0 is going to be impossible. Okay? When it's a 0% chance of happening, it is impossible that it's going to happen. It's not going to happen. So the next one is 25%. 25% is less than 50%. And so 50%, let's go ahead and fill this one out first, is evenly likely. Meaning that it's an equal chance that something could happen as something else could happen. Kind of like flipping a coin. It's an equal chance that you could land on a heads as it is an equal chance you could land on tails. It's a 50-50 chance. So if this is evenly likely, then 25% is going to be less likely than our 50%. Meaning it could happen, but there's less of a chance. So if you think about rolling a number cube, when you roll a number cube, you have 6 options. So if I ask the chance of rolling a 6, there's only 1 out of 6. 3 out of 6 is your 50%. 1 out of 6 is less chance, so it's less likely you roll a 6 than any of the numbers. Okay, so 75% instead of being less likely is going to be the opposite. It's going to be more likely, or we can just say likely. It is likely it will happen. And lastly is 100%. Meaning it is certain it will happen. Okay. So those are some pretty important terms that go along with our fractions and our percentages. To go along with this, we also have this 0% to 50%. Anything in between 0% to 50% is considered less likely. So this term applies to any percentage that's above 0% and less than 50%. Same goes for after you get to 50%, which is evenly likely. Anything between 50% and 100% is, we just call it likely. Even if it's 99% chance, we say that it's likely. It's probably going to happen, but there's a chance that it could. So that's why we use the term likely. So we're going to go ahead and use these percentages and these terms to go ahead and fill out this information below. Solve some problems with it. So the first one we have is, if you roll a die, will you get a number less than 7? So if I think about it, on a number cube, I have 6 numbers, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay? Every single one of those fits my less than 7. So I have a 6 out of 6 chance, which is equal to 100%, which is certain that I will roll a die and get a number less than 7. Number 2, if you roll a die, you will get an odd number. My chances to get an odd number is a 1, 3, or a 5. There's 3 out of 6 possibilities, which is equal to 50%.
Good afternoon, staff. If the person who borrowed the walkie from the office, the carpool walkie, could return it before the end of the day, thank you.
Sorry for the interruption. So we have a 3/6, 3 out of 6 possibility would be 50%. If we go up here to our terms, it is an evenly likely chance. Alright, number 3. Jody has a dance rehearsal on Tuesday afternoons. How likely is it that Jody is at the mall on a Tuesday afternoon? Okay, there really is no fraction we can come up with this because we're not talking about numbers, but what we can talk about is the possibilities. So if she's usually at the mall, or she's usually at the dance rehearsal on Tuesdays, she's probably not at the mall. But could she be at the mall? Absolutely. So most of the time she's going to be at our dance rehearsals, which is going to be kind of put her up here. But there could be a chance she would be at our mall, which would be over in this area. So we're going to go ahead and say that it is a less likely chance. Okay? Or we can even say unlikely. All right? It's still a possibility there, but it could be. And we'll just give it maybe a 10% chance. Okay. Number 4, a bag contains 12 pennies and 12 dimes. How likely is it that you will draw a dime from the bag? So we have a 12 dimes out of 24 total coins, which is a 50% chance, which is again an evenly likely situation. Alright, a few problems that go along with this. First one, we have the container below contains 2 gray, 1 white, and 4 black marbles. Without looking, if Eric chooses a marble from the container, will the probability be closer to 0 or to 1 that Eric will select a white marble, a gray marble, a black marble, and then justify each of our predictions? So if we talk about probability here, if we're going to select a white marble, we only have one option. So we have 1 marble out of a total of 7 chances. Okay? Now I know that this is going to be less than 50%, and there is still a chance it's going to happen, so it is a less likely chance. Okay? I'm actually going to put unlikely up here as well. I'll put unlikely here, because you're going to see both of those. And same thing with here, unlikely. Okay. Alright, our next one is our gray marble. Alright, our gray marble has 2 chances here, so 2 out of 7. Okay. Again, it is a less than our half. Okay. Our evenly likely would be 3.5 over 7. But it's not 0, so again it's going to be a less likely or unlikely chance. Okay. And then lastly we have our black marble of 4. There's 4 of them up there out of our 7. Okay, and this is going to be greater than our 50% chance, because 3.5 would make it 50%, so it is going to fall into this area. Sorry, it's going to fall into this area over here in between 50 and 75%. Giving us a likely chance we're going to pull a black marble. Okay. And number 6, there are 3 choices of jelly beans: grape, cherry, and orange. If the probability of getting a grape is 3/10 and the probability of getting cherry is 1/5, what is the probability of getting orange? Okay, now I have to remember that my probability is from anywhere from a 0 to a 1. Alright? So anything in between I could possibly get here. So, but it all in the end should add up to 1, because it's a total chance of me getting a grape, cherry, or orange. So if I have my grape is 3/10, and I add that to my cherry, which is 1/5, okay, and I have to do a little converting here. 3/10 and 2/10 is equal to 5/10, which is equal to half. Alright. Alright, now I think about, I went ahead and did my grape and my cherry, so whatever's left over is going to be my orange. If half of it is grape and cherry, that means the rest of the 1 is going to be orange. So I can do 1 minus a half is equal to half. So the probability of getting orange is half. That's my answer right there. Alright, and if I were to add all these up, half plus 1/5 plus 3/10, in the end it all equals 1. So what I'll go ahead and do now is pause your video. Okay. Write down these problems right here and go ahead and try them out. Once you try them out yourselves, go ahead and move on to your video. Let's go ahead and talk about your answers. Okay. So the first one for you is you must 18 years old. How likely is that Emily has her learner's permit? So she's not 15, so it should be a 0 out of whatever chances you want to give. I just wrote 100 down, but it's still 0 out of whatever, and that is equal to a 0%, which is impossible. Next one, number 2. We have the club volleyball team is made up of 7 boys and 4 girls. How likely is it the first player chosen at random will be a girl? So we look at our probability of 4 out of a total of 11 people. So 4 plus 7 is 11, is equal to a 36.36 repeating. So that falls in between our 0 and 50%, which means it is unlikely. Number 3, we have cards number 1 through 8. How likely is you pull a card greater than 2? There's 6 possibilities there, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so 6 out of 8 is equal to 75%, and that falls in my likely category. Number 4, a number less than 4. So that leaves us a 3, 2, and a 1. So 3 out of 8 is 37.5%, and that is an unlikely term that goes with it. Okay. Your other 2 questions you had was someone has a bag of candy, and they want you to know what's the probability of pulling Skittles. Well, after you go ahead and do the math of 2/6 of lollipops, 1/6 is M&Ms, you're going to get a total of 3/6 for lollipops and M&Ms. Subtracted by the 1 whole, and you get 3/6 left for Skittles, meaning 50%. Very similar to number 6, we have our oranges, apples, and bananas. We have 1/3 is oranges, 1/6 is bananas. Add those together and get 3/6. Then subtract it by 1, and you get your remaining probability, which is 3/6 apples, or 50%.